Hi guys, I hope you're doing really well. My name is Sarah and welcome to What the Horror, the channel where we talk about horror movies old and new. Also, welcome to another episode of Monsters 101, where we look at and study the monsters of horror, taking a look at the villains, ghosts, demons, and creatures that haunt the screen. For this episode, we're looking at Krampus, the antagonist of the 2015 film of the same name, based on the Austro-German Christmas folklore. Within this episode, we will look at Krampus's appearance, his origins, how he hunts, and, most importantly, ask the question, can you defeat the Krampus? Krampus is a dark ancient spirit, the shadow of Saint Nicholas, that punishes children at Christmas time. Those who have been naughty and those who have lost the spirit of Christmas. The Krampus is a half-demon, half-goat creature dressed in a red velvet cloak who resides in an underworld. In Krampus, the demonic creature is accidentally summoned by Max Engel, and one by one he sets out to punish Max and his entire family. Krampus was written by Michael Dougherty, Todd Casey, and Zach Shields. According to Dougherty, he had always wanted to create a scary Christmas movie, but it wasn't until he received a Christmas e-card with an image of the Krampus on it that he found the perfect story for his film. According to Dougherty, it was love at first sight, but as is often the case, it would be a few years yet before the project got off the ground. But in the meantime, Dougherty was gathering ideas for the design of the titular character and its demonic creatures. While Dougherty already had some ideas for his Krampus, he also went back and drew inspiration from years of old Christmas cards that he had designed and sent out to friends and family. Back in 2016, about a year after the release of Krampus, Mike Dougherty shared a handful of images on what was formerly called Twitter of early concept art for the Krampus. In one of them, you can clearly see what would go on to be the final design, but with the slight difference of the horns this time looking like branches from a tree. Dougherty also shared two images that were part of the inspiration for the Krampus's demonic creatures, including the snowmen and the gingerbread men. The Krampus suit, which ended up weighing around 70 pounds, was worn by suit performer Luke Hawker. They had built a rig to go inside of the suit for Luke to wear to help him hold the weight, but also to help him to be able to see on a screen, as he couldn't see through the suit itself. While Krampus is traditionally half demon, half goat, in Mike Dougherty's Krampus, the creature also has a humanoid appearance. However, Dougherty has since revealed that the face of Krampus within the film is actually a mask hiding Krampus's true form. The name Krampus is thought to come from either the German Krampen, meaning claw, or the Bavarian Krampen, meaning dead or rotten. In folklore, the Krampus originated in Germany and Austria, believed to have been of pagan origin, and even dating back pre-Christianity in the 6th and 7th century. However, there is no actual written record of the legend before the 16th century, so in reality, it is far more likely that this legend is hundreds of years old rather than thousands. By the 17th century, the Krampus had become part of Christian Christmas traditions and was then thought to be the shadow of Santa or Saint Nicholas. The pair would visit children together, and while Santa would reward, the Krampus would punish. Santa would leave gifts for children while Krampus would whip them with branches and sticks, and in some cases it was believed he would eat the children or capture them and take them to hell. Within the film, Krampus is instead thousands of years old, a dark ancient spirit who acts as the shadow to Saint Nicholas, but comes to punish, not to reward, and not to give, but to take away. Back in the 1940s in Germany, either during or just after World War II, a young Omi Engel lives in her small town with her parents. We can infer this is the time based on Omi's age in 2015 and also the state of the village that she's living in and the fact that she's from Germany. One night just before Christmas, when everything felt darker and less cheerful in the world, villagers were collecting rationed bread, and while, despite the darkness, Omi still believed in Santa, magic and miracles, her village had given up on each other and the idea of miracles. And the bread Omi had collected for her and her family was ripped out of her hands by other adults from the village. The village, including her parents, had forgotten the spirit of Christmas and of giving, and when Omi tried to remind her parents of it, they responded by shouting at her and destroying her Santa stuffed toy. Realizing they had given up led Omi to do so too, and in doing so she threw her Santa onto the fire and wished for her family to go away, with the embers flying out of the chimney into the sky and summoning Krampus. That night a blizzard descended on the village, and instead of St. Nicholas they were visited by Krampus, and all Omi could do was listen as Krampus and his creatures took her parents and dragged them into their underworld. And while Omi waited, thinking that she would be next, Krampus and his creatures instead left her as a reminder of what happens when belief is forgotten. Years later, in 2015, a young boy named Max Engel, the grandson of Omi, feels like Christmas isn't what it used to be and writes a letter to Santa. But instead of asking for selfish or materialistic things, Max wishes he and his sister could be close again, that his parents could fall in love again, and asks that Santa helps his aunt and uncle so things aren't so tough for them anymore. And while this change could just be down to his own perception changing as he grows older, his family has grown distant. But despite Max wanting a family Christmas and wishing for selfless things, all he gets in return is anger, distance, and teasing from his family. And this causes Max to lose his hope, his belief in Santa, and ultimately his Christmas spirit. He rips up his letter to Santa and throws it out of the window. The pieces are carried up into the night sky and accidentally summon the Krampus. Almost immediately, a blizzard descends on the house, knocking out the power. Krampus has the appearance of half man, half goat. He has 2 black furry legs with hooves for feet. He has a hunched back and long white bony fingers with long black claws at the end. He has 2 long curved horns on his head and a long dirty white beard and moustache. He has dirty rotten teeth and an abnormally long tongue. His face appears white with sunken black eyes, but this is actually just a mask hiding his real face underneath. He wears a dirty red velvet cloak trimmed with dirty white fur. The suit has bells sewn along it and chains wrapped around it. And when the Krampus moves, you can hear the bells jingling and the chains clanging. And at times, he makes a sound that sounds a little bit like a cross between a wolf and an elephant. When Krampus first arrives, he brings with him a blizzard that engulfs the area of his targeted victims. The blizzard makes people vulnerable and trapped. It cuts off their heat and power and means it's difficult for them to drive away and escape. Any vehicles that could drive through the snow, like Uncle Howard's Hummer, are destroyed, making it impossible to leave. So first, Krampus isolates and traps his victims. His creatures then infiltrate the house by leaving a red velvet sack of wrapped presents at the door. Once they're brought inside, they stay dormant until the right time to attack, when there's fewer numbers of people or someone has wandered off alone. We see evidence of this when Stevie and Jordan head upstairs alone to use the bathroom, and both are lured into Beth's bedroom by the creatures and then attacked. They also make demonic snowmen that gather in numbers and advance on the house, circling it. As far as attacking anyone outside in the snow, the Krampus often follows them himself. Krampus has the ability and strength to jump onto high rooftops. He can also then run and jump from roof to roof, which we see evidence of when he is pursuing Beth down the street. But he never seems to actually capture or kill anyone himself. Instead, he leaves it to one of his demonic creatures. For example, despite being chased by Krampus, Beth is actually captured and swallowed by the Jack-in-a-Box creature named Der Clown. There is also an unseen creature hidden in the depths of snow that grabs people and pulls them under. We see this creature try to capture Howard earlier on in the film, but is stopped by Tom. but the creature later successfully captures Aunt Linda and Tom and Sarah Engel, pulling them all into the snow. And whatever this creature is, it seems unable to distinguish between humans and other beings, as we see it drag one of Krampus's dark elves into the snow as well. But Krampus seems to prefer to attack his victims in their own homes, choosing to come down the chimney, splitting open the fireplace like some mutated Santa. The fact that Omi keeps a fire lit in the fireplace is what seems to be the only delay to Krampus getting into the Engels' house. But one night, when the family have fallen asleep and the fire is down to embers, the creatures lower a hook down the chimney, and one of the demonic gingerbread men is used to lure one of the kids away, who is then wrapped up in chains and pulled up the chimney. Krampus's demonic creatures consist of quite a variety. You have a tree angel who attacks with its long claws, a toy robot that stabs with blades, a jack-in-the-box that swallows people whole, a toy bear that bites and scratches, and gingerbread men that basically use anything to hand. When a trio of gingerbread men attack Howard in the kitchen, we see them use a nail gun from somewhere and a sharpened candy cane stick. The purpose of the creatures appears to be to enter the house when the Krampus is unable to, and weaken the people inside by splitting them up and by attacking them. Krampus also has a horde of dark elves at his command, and we see that once the creatures have attacked the family and wounded some of them, the dark elves break into the house through the living room window, and both recover the creatures and capture members of the family. In the Engels' case, they take the baby and Aunt Dorothy, with Howard also being taken along for the ride, but only through his attempts to rescue the baby. Krampus and his minions seem to pick off the weaker members of the family first, thinning out the pack. Wherever Krampus or his creatures go or enter, they leave a trail of cold air and ice. We see evidence of this after the Jack-in-a-Box attacks Stevie and Jordan, and again after the Dark Elves have broken into the house. This time they leave an icy wind in the air, making it now impossible to relight a fire that previously kept them safe. Despite it being Max who accidentally summons Krampus, it appears to be the entire neighbourhood who is attacked. Omi says that Krampus being there is the fault of all of them, any one of them who has lost the Christmas spirit. As well as the Engel family members, we also see other households have been attacked, including Beth's boyfriend's house, which we see has been vandalised and covered in frost, evidence of Krampus's presence. Well, that and the trashed fireplace and the gingerbread man pinned to the fridge with a kitchen knife. What's interesting though is that the families who are attacked seem to disappear, yet we also see a DPS delivery man dead in his van. This time Krampus killed but didn't capture, and this is never really explained or expanded on. Little is known about how the Krampus lives. All we do know is that he and his creatures live in an underworld, in what has the appearance of a workshop. Lit by candles and a fireplace, the workshop is full of shelves with snow globes on all of them. We can assume all holding a captured family like the Engels. Krampus is a demon from hell, or at least an underworld, and so is not vulnerable to things as humans would be. As far as it appears in the film, Krampus is unkillable. However, to be fair, no one really tries to kill him, so we can't know this for sure. It is also seemingly almost impossible to beat Krampus. Once you are marked by him, that's pretty much it. We see in the film one of the children asks Omi, the one person there to have met Krampus and lived, if there is a way to make him go away, and Omi has no answer for them. There are, however, ways to delay Krampus and keep him and his creatures from attacking. From the moment the blizzard arrives, Omi builds a fire in the fireplace and keeps it burning. As we see evidence that Krampus enters the house down the chimney, we realise that Omi is doing this as a way to keep Krampus out. This could quite possibly be the reason why the Engel house appears to be the last house attacked. Once Tom and Howard become aware of the dangers outside in the blizzard, they return to the house and tell the whole family to lock every door and board the windows up with wood. But as we see, this isn't enough to keep them safe. The creatures are already in the house waiting in the red sack, and the fire is the only real thing keeping more of them from entering the house. The family members, realising that they need to get out of the house, come up with an escape plan, which is for Tom to walk to an abandoned snowplow that he and Howard came across earlier when they had gone looking for Beth. He would return to the house with it, the others would load into the car, and then Tom would clear a path with the plough with the car following behind. They would attempt to head to the mall, which acts as an emergency shelter, and if that was empty, then continue on to the police station. They never actually get to put this plan into action, so we'll never know if it would have worked. Instead, they are attacked by the creatures in the red sack. They retaliate with fire, an axe, and a gun. The fire slows the gingerbread men down, but doesn't stop them. In fact, the only thing that stops the gingerbread men is being eaten by Rosie the dog. The axe, again, only slows the creatures down. The gun does seem to actually fatally injure some of the creatures, but with limited ammo, this is not a long-term plan. Plus, the injured creatures are then rescued and recovered by the Dark Elves. By the end of the film, after all of his family members have been captured, Max is left by Krampus, like his grandma before him, as a reminder of what happens when you lose your Christmas spirit. But refusing to accept this, Max follows Krampus and demands his family back. He takes his wish back. Krampus only laughs at Max's plea to take him instead of his cousin Stevie, and ends up throwing both of them into the fire pit he's created in the ground. But before Max is thrown in, he says he's sorry to Krampus, and that he only wanted a family Christmas like it used to be. Max wakes up in his bedroom and figures it must have been a dream. He goes downstairs and finds all of his family celebrating Christmas morning, but as the members slowly begin to remember the attacks, it is revealed that the whole family, including Rosie the dog, is actually trapped in a snow globe, one of many kept on shelves in Krampus's workshop. Now, the ending of Krampus is up for debate, as there are different ways to interpret it. One is that this was always the fate of the family, and that the snow globes contained those who lost their Christmas spirit, and this is their punishment. However, another way to take it is that this wasn't the intended fate, that they were intended to be killed and taken to hell, but one that they ended up with because of Max's selfless acts at the fire pit. That them being trapped in the snow globe is actually them being spared by Krampus, but yet still not free. Thank you guys for attending another Monsters 101. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. As always, let me know your thoughts on this week's monster down below. What are your thoughts on Krampus? I personally love this film and this version of Krampus. I rewatch this every single December. But if it's a creature that you're interested in, then there are other versions in other Christmas horror films, and plenty of reading on the original folklore. There is also a dark TV series called Inside Number 9, written by Reese Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton. And I'm not sure if it's available anywhere outside of the UK, so I apologise if it's not, but there is a Christmas special episode which is based around Krampus. It's a dark watch, but it's a good time, so if you can find that anywhere, I would highly recommend it. If you're new here and enjoyed the episode, then don't forget to click that subscribe button and become part of the What the Horror family. Also, don't forget to check out my other episodes of Monsters 101. I'll leave a link to that playlist at the end of this episode. But in the meantime, thank you as always for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye.